hole-in-one, I think. Birdie wing. More like mid-wing, or should I say birdie mid?
Wow!
A cautionary tale in how to butcher all your potential because writers.
Wonderful.
Let's dial it back a few years so you can catch a glimpse of what I'm talking about. The final episode aired today, and I'm going to spoil that shit because wowie owie am I disappointed. Birdie Wing writers, you had one job that you get paid for, which means I can criticize the fuck out of this. So this is a story about this girl here, Eve, short for Evangeline Burton. The show starts out showing her golf for money, doing all these underground bets. It's like this whole crazy golf world. It's pretty cool. And then, we learned that she was an orphan that didn't remember her past, but more importantly, she meets a girl the complete opposite of herself. The raven-haired model schoolgirl that comes from money. So it kind of goes down like this. They play some golf, Eve gets involved in the mafia, plays on an ever-changing underground golf course that changes to your heart's content, and there's a sad little story about how Eve just can't make it to play golf with Aoi again. Great stuff. But surprise! She heads to Japan where she tracks down Aoi and attends her academy. And guess what? The two play together and improve. Friends are made along the way, and the two aren't even allowed to sleep in the same room because it would be gay. Much like Eve kissing Aoi on the cheek and Aoi wanting more. But then they're sisters, in the worst plot twist of all time. Except then they're not. Great pacing, I guess. I only say that because no one wants them to be sisters. And why is that? Because Aoi's dad turns out to be Eve's dad. We're in Spanish soap opera telenova territory now. And not Aoi's at all. So don't worry, they're not sisters. This is why Eve can speak Japanese. So Eve gets deported because of Aoi's mom, and she doesn't fight it. No, season 2 is largely spent with Eve trying to make it to a big tournament to compete again against Aoi, and fulfill their promise of golfing together again. Very gay in theory, not so much in practice. It's like a rushed Dragon Ball tournament arc. Imagine if you cut 3/4 of the fight and condensed each significant battle to about an episode and a half. In fact, don't imagine that with Dragon Ball, imagine that with Dragon Ball Kai. Yeah, it's that poorly paced. I mean, even for DBZ, that would be too much fat cut off the bone. So much so that you don't have any meat left. And that's what this anime turned into, a thin steak cooked rare. You're paying all your time and investment and don't even get any lamb sauce. Do people eat steak with lamb sauce? Anyway, when they finally do meet, it doesn't really matter because Aoi has this golf disease, right? And she's had it since they played together in Japan. But yeah, she can't even finish the tournament and becomes Eve's caddy instead of her super competent caddy, Ichina, that she promised to be pros with. So Eve mentally competes with what she thinks Aoi's score would be. It doesn't make too much sense, but I guess it's a good motivational strategy. Because in typical anime fashion, each character has their own special shot. Kind of like Mario Golf, I guess.
Okay.
See, Eve had these moves called like the rainbow bullets, and they were situational and really cool, but she abandoned them to create her own shot, which is just a single move that destroys her body, physically. To me, on the golf course, that just seems like she's swinging too hard, because I've done that, and it's like, yeah, how are you in the pros in doing that? Well, whatever. Use a steel shaft, I guess, like the men do. Anyway, Aoi's special shot is this shining wing shot that's like, in the intro, it's foreshadowed heavily. Her last name, Amawashi, means heavenly eagle. So in the last episode, Eve combines these shots, and it's kind of underwhelming effect-wise. She smacks it 320 yards, and still in her mind loses to Aoi. So she combines their shots and creates the ultimate golf. Again, which is what her first mentor Leo sought to do. This guy didn't go pro, but played the best around the world because he loved golf. and he wanted to be the best and find the best. He even played Eve's dad. And that's why he mentored her, because they made a promise. It's a whole thing that just seems pointless now. That's where she got her bullets that she abandoned. So she creates the ultimate golf, and that's it. How can Aoi catch up? How did she still lose mentally, or excuse me, tie? Speaking of ties, then Eve's mafia ties make her lose. She's disqualified from the championship, the British Open. So not only does Eve not really care to compete again against the Lunar Empress Julha, whatever her name is, don't really care about her, which you would think she would because Eve doesn't really lose, you know. She only cares this time about going after Aoi, but there's a problem with that, plot-wise, characterization-wise. You see, the thing is, all the drama between rivals and foes in Season 2 lasts about 1.5 episodes. It's like if Cell was introduced for an episode and was a threat for 2 of them. But you knew for a fact in those 2 episodes he wasn't actually a threat. But I guess he blew up Kaio's planet and killed Goku, so... Yeah. Yeah, Eve technically won. I guess that's good enough for her. Somehow it shouldn't be. And therein lies the problem. She just... And there it is. Then after all said and done, she just abandons Aoi and Ichina, everyone, for 3 to 4 years. How can you just leave your friends and love interest in the dark? Why wouldn't she be by Aoi's side when she's sick? What's the theme of this show? The show just ends with them golfing again after that time skip and meeting for the first time. And Aoi's mostly recovered and that's it. Is the theme that some people are loners and a little rivalry is healthy? Because Season 2 just goes, nah, your friendship and potential romance are a waste of time. Even though Eve was playing for Aoi the entire time, and that's her sole motivation, and she's maybe dying. See you later, B. I'm off to... What? Train despite having the bestest, most ultimate golf you could never attain because you're sick and will be off your game when we play. She also cut her hair. Okay, great, I guess. Did they? It almost seems like they had a Season 3 planned and just, nah, shove it into 2 because you're not gonna get it. But even so, they could have written the last episode to not make everything so pointless. I felt so invested. Like a housewife binging soap operas for no payoff. Not a Tamagotchi ending, not a Yuri ending, just a rushed product that makes Wii Sports Golf look like Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2004, baby, or Mario Golf Super Rush like 64. So, what was the point? A promise. Didn't Aoi want to play golf with Eve and that's what makes it extra enjoyable? What happens when Eve doesn't want to because she wins? How would Aoi even beat their combined shot while she was ill and Eve was probably improving? Eve and Aoi, by the end, don't even feel like friends. Just people they kind of look up to. It's like if you idolize Tony Hawk because you competed with him once. Like you didn't even know him before. You just met him and played with them and thought like, wow, okay, this guy's really cool. But Tony Hawk wasn't Tony Hawk. He was Tony Dickhead and didn't care enough to check up on you while you're maybe dying. But somehow keeps tabs from the shadows. Countries away, most likely. And I guess Tony doesn't even really like skateboarding and only does it for the money at first, but becomes amazed by your skateboarding abilities and flirts with you and kisses you and yeah. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just really unhappy with how this ended. There is a contest going where you get a signed poster for predicting the ending. I kind of guessed it, maybe 3/4 of it, half, I don't know. I'd put it right next to the goddamn fucking Nadia poster if I got it though. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of Mary narrating at the end of Nadia and revealing that terrible ending. We still need to have a chat about that. In like 2 videos or something. This sucks. Bad ending after bad ending. Season 1 had me hooked. In fact, I didn't watch the finale of Season 1 until Season 2 started so I could keep watching. I was so enthralled. I didn't really feel that way about Season 2. The tension just wasn't there. The pacing was very fast, but the story still felt slow somehow. Almost as though it was just taking the wrong direction, which it did. So imagine my disappointment. I'm so disappointed. You have no idea, ladies and gentlemen, how disappointed I am currently. I drew a short comic very quickly after work the other night because I was like, I want to get this in before the season finale. Hopefully something like this happens, but it didn't. At least my sloppy art, this only took a few hours, still has a better plot than what happened. I swear to God. All in all, I would still recommend Birdie Wing, particularly the first season. It reminds me a lot of Dragon Ball, how early in the series they had to use a myriad of different strategies to overcome their opponents, which is exactly what Eve had to do. Whereas when she gets her rainbow burst, it's kind of just, I'm gonna hit it really hard and my fairway average is not really gonna go down, except on this one course, and that's just because of the course. It's like, okay. Also, a lot of the fights, or excuse me, matches in Season 1 just seem to be better animated and drawn, and there's a lot more tension, there's stakes. You kind of feel conflicted because you don't want Rose to die, and there's a third party at play that's just really evil. Catherine's evil fucker, you know, and it's great. I really recommend Season 1. I mean, who would have guessed that Rose was a cyborg with this crazy tragic backstory? And Eve, you really think she could lose, even though she's the unstoppable shonen protagonist. Or at least she acts like it. But that's the thing with the Empress. Juha just doesn't have any sort of stakes about her. It feels very underwhelming. Like, the real drama is what's gonna happen with Aoi overall. And then there's the whole mafia subplot coming back, even though it was taken care of, because guess what? Eve is actually the granddaughter of this big mafia boss. And it's like, it just doesn't make sense. If that happened, I'm still, like, that is the most irking point of this, besides the fact, aside from the fact there's no kiss. Because if that happened in real life, you could sue the fuck out of them. And clearly Eve was upset about it. It's just, I could write a better ending. I think you could write a better ending than this. It's really disappointing, however, that the only real relationship in this show is heterosexual. Vipère and her stupid boyfriend. Like, such Yuri, much wow.